All right, all right. We do have a couple other people coming in. I'm getting a lot of messages saying, are you going to be talking about the National Association of Realtors settlement that happened this actually today? And so I've been reviewing it. We're going to watch the video from the CRMLS together and then just discuss the findings. I've watched it a couple times. I'm still really absorbing the information, but what it just comes down to is we have to disclose to the client. We are the specialist. We're all, for those of you that are like, well, Kathy, I'm not a licensed agent yet. But in my classes, I always present it from the perspective that we're bringing the future into the present. And because we're bringing the future into the present, I need to talk to you as though you are agents, because all of the curriculum, all of the information that you're receiving is very clinical. And if you don't put it into your own life practices right now, it's going to affect you. It's going to affect you in a way that will hinder you from being the agent that I know that you are and that you can be. And so I want to make sure that we go over that. So we're going to watch what the CRMLS took from the National Association of Realtors case. You'll find that when I present any information to you guys, I always try to do my best to bring information from legitimate sources. For those of you that start laughing in my, especially the replay crew, are like, Kathy, you're always giving us like TMZ articles and People Magazine. True. Okay, that is accurate, but they're pretty accurate, and they're not behind a paywall, and they're not going to steal your identity or your information. There was an article that I was trying to find information on, and I don't know who, I can't recall who the newspaper or the online news source was, but it was one of the big guys, and I didn't accept the cookies. And when I went to click on some information, my camera came on and my screen flashed. So there, and I saw a picture of myself on the screen, and I was like, yeah, somebody's messing. So there is technology out there that likes to mess with us and likes to steal our information. If you accept the cookies, chances are your information is going to be regurgitated and sent out to other people. So I kind of have a zero tolerance for that kind of baloney. So if I give you an article that says TMZ, or if I give you like a People Magazine article, it's because they're not hard pressed to get people to get onto their information. They don't have a paywall. They don't. They're mostly salacious news, right? But if they have accurate information, I'm going to the salacious news first. I'm not going to try to put anything behind a paywall when I'm teaching or when I'm instructing. So I'm going to queue up the video, and let me stop sharing this. We're going to start soon since we kind of did. And I hope you're having a great day, guys. Let's see what else. So I understand last week was crazy. Every week's crazy. Welcome to Kathyville. But I recorded the video that we did Wednesday night. I thought I recorded it Wednesday night. I didn't. I then recorded it again, and for whatever reason, there was like an encryption or there was a problem. So I was like, okay, that video is not meant to go out. So that being said, we will record tonight, and I believe I already have it set up that it is recorded. I do apologize because my computer is dinging, but it is what it is. So that being said, we're going to watch the CRMLS. So that we can discuss what is in your present and future with regards to being an agent and regarding your disclosure requirements. So for those of you that are like, I don't even understand, Kathy, it's not going to help me. It'll help you. It's totally going to help you. And it's better to have the mindset that this is what you're going to be presented with by the time those of you that are going to pass the state, that go to the point where you're going to pass the state exam. You're not going to go to commercial real estate or appraisals or one of the other fields. So anyway, we're going to watch that together. But before we do that, is there something that you would like me to address in your studying for this week? Because if there is, we'll totally do that first, and then we'll go do, because the CRMLS video is 26.4 48 seconds, so 26 minutes, 48 seconds. And that's going to take the first part of the Zoom. So I want to make sure that I'm taking care of you guys. So speak now or forever hold your P's and Q's, or put it in the text. Put it in the chat. I will share this video in chat as well. You might see some of the fur babies jumping around. We've been doing vet appointments and the like because I am in better health. And so we are all about the better health here. So I am coming back from fighting some crazy stuff, but we're good now. Kind of. I just have to stay on top of it. On top of a lot of. Okay, so I put it in chat, the video we're going to be watching with the CRMLS. Now, there was a video that we went over, depending upon which institution that I've taught for, or I've said, hey, go check this out. Oh, that's a great question. I have a question in chat that says that the quizzes on the student portal have been freezing. Should I call customer service about it? I would definitely call customer service about it. And then also I would ask them to walk you through, they might ask you to like delete your cookies or something like that, but be careful because you might delete all of the other auto populating things that make life a lot easier for you. So I want you to be careful with that, but I would definitely call customer service with regards to that, especially because if you're prepping for your open book exam or your final exam for the class, having it freeze or having there be a problem on your account could hinder you from having the full amount of time, because your final exam is not only timed, but because of the number of questions, you've got a very short amount of time for each one of those questions. So I would encourage you to call them literally tomorrow. Call for sure. Keep me in the loop though. Send me a text or an email. On what's going on or what the situation is. But before you go in to take any more of your quizzes, do the old school method of restart your technology. You might see, I don't think I'm sharing my screen right now. Let me share my screen so you guys can see all of my things. Let's see, it should be on this one. Yeah. I'm in Chrome and it says finish update. I'm like, it'll be fine. And then it's like, oh, I better do that before Saturday because we've got a lot going on our weekend classes. And so little things like this could buffer. Also, I don't know how many other people are like this, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Chrome tabs, 9 screens open for Chrome. I have 1 screen for Safari, and if this one only has 4, how many does this one have? Oh, it just has 1. Okay, and then what else do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So all of my all of my screens that I have open have a number of tabs open on them, and that's going to slow things down as well. So when you're about to take any of the quizzes for prepping for the final, or when you're going to take the final because it is timed, you should only have 1 tab open, have everything else closed out, restart your computer, do all of the things to cause it so that there's nothing like playing in the background of your computer or uploading or downloading that would hinder you from having the best opportunity to have the highest score and the most amount of time. But customer service for sure. For Quizlets, it's best to just focus on the quizzes because there's a lot of flashcards. For Quizlets, there are flashcard questions. There should be anywhere from 10 to 20 per unit in the book, and that would be 10 to 20 for times 15. So those flashcards are there, but make sure you're in the principles Quizlets only, because there's principles Quizlets, there's practice Quizlets, which I don't even ask you guys to use anymore, and then there's, because the book's changed, Senate Bill 1495 has changed the book that you're actually reading and studying for your open book exam, and then but legal aspects is the same, and it's a mix of principles and legal aspects. So but I would just make sure that you're going with the Quizlets for principles only. But there's nothing wrong with that. Studying those, it feels like a lot of flashcards for sure. I'm not going to say no on that at all. But if you prefer to go through the PowerPoints that were built based on the questions, which are very close to the exact same, oh wait, actually, you know what? Elisa might have used the questions on the student portal mixed with the questions in the back of the book. That wouldn't surprise me because she was one of my, she was an awesome student. She's very efficient. So she might have added those two things together. Also take a break. You got to oh, hold on a second. I have a sneeze on deck. Nope, I don't. It ran away now that I identified I was about to sneeze. Okay. Make sure that when you're prepping for your open book exams, your finals and the like, that you're maybe studying 30 to 40 minutes, taking a 20-minute break, because there's something about giving the brain the downtime to reassess the information that was just presented. And part of the reason for that is our brains actually need time to process. That's why at night sometimes you have, maybe not you, but there are a number of people out there that have wild and crazy dreams. Your brain is just like connecting all of that stuff together, or organizing it, or categorizing it and putting in folders. That's the only way I can express it, like it's an office, and categorizing where that needs to go and filing it away for later. And we've got to give ourselves that time, the same way like a good piece of tofu and an excellent piece of meat or even fish. There's an amount of time that the seasoning needs to be put on each one of those things, and it's not going to be the same for each of those proteins, right, as it would be for those of you that are like, tofu is not a protein, Kathy. Let me just believe it is. I don't want to think of it as a carb. But there's a reason why that process is needed for all of those things, and each one of us is processing things a little bit differently as well. So you might be very visually oriented. Somebody else might have an auditory thing that really helps them, so they like listen to I have students that listen to the recordings, even these Zooms, they just listen to them because there's something, I think I was told by at least one student, there's something soothing about your voice. And I was like, really? Thanks. I don't even know what that means. But anyway, so everyone has their own version of how all of this works. So I just want to encourage you guys with that. But the moment you start feeling overwhelmed, put a timer on for 5 minutes and breathe. Because you're going through a lot of content in a very short amount of time. Even my students that have 11-week classes with me are overwhelmed. I'm like, can you imagine taking this in 3.5 weeks? And they're like, what? And then the students that are taking it in 5 weeks are like, this is overwhelming. I'm like, can you imagine? Same set of students, I mean, different school, but same students are like, holy cow, you know? So you guys are taking it in the most intense amount of time. But success is it's right on the other side of this open book exam. So I want to encourage you, you're just right there and you can do it. Okay, I know that you can do it because I believe in each one of you, and I know that you have the tools and the resources. Whether you came in through Calibri, and Calibri owns Real Estate Express, they bought out Rockwell, Allied Schools, and whoever else for California, whether you came through them, whether you're coming to me through Glendale Community College, whether you're coming to me through Los Angeles Community College, one of the 9 campuses for the district, whether you're coming to me from UCLA, you each, no matter what the curriculum is, have been given not only the curriculum, but all the tools for success that compensate for the areas that may not necessarily have like some curriculum just has some outdated information, or that something's spelled wrong, or a question's wrong, or a question needs to be recreated or needs to be elaborated on. Like that stuff happens in all curriculum, and has since we started having schools back prior to Harvard even being named Harvard as the first university here in these United States. So you are going to maybe go, oh, I don't need this supplemental stuff. So that's why, Aiko, you ask about Quizlets. If you're feeling overwhelmed by the Quizlets, take a break. But they are a powerhouse. They are a tool. Elisa built those, and she built those for her own studying. She shared them with the other classes. They've been there for quite some time, because she's awesome. And she also did the 754 vocabulary terms. And there's some other really cool stuff that's going to be coming out in the next 4 months or less that I've kind of got my hand in to try to help supplement some students that are just walking in the door early, you know. Weekend classes are helping me retain much of the information. I have a chat that says weekend classes are helping me retain much of the information. You hit all the important points, enabling me to get right answers on matching, multiple choice, and dashboard quizzes. Thank you, Kathy. Oh, Jimmy, well, thank you. I mean, I appreciate you sharing that. And my thing is, the key to me, part of the reason we do these Wednesdays is it gives anyone an opportunity to come in that can. But I want you to have the resources. The books are the books are fundamental, but if I can pull in supplemental information, if I can, like when I brought in the Cardi B and Tasha K lawsuit, you're like, Kathy, that has nothing to do with like real estate. Well, technically, you know, we're talking about contractual law. Technically, we're talking about oops, sorry, Bubba. Technically, we're talking about things that are associated with lawsuits and how lawsuits work and how all of this process works. So I'll bring in a court case if that'll help you with that term or that definition instead of making it, oh, well, this just means this. In the same way, when you're learning geometry, if you're not studying a building, if you're not studying something three-dimensional, those two things might not connect. So anyway, that being said, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm blessed that and encouraged that I'm doing something right. Let's jump into the video though. If you guys have any thoughts, drop them into chat. We'll discuss. I'm still parsing this out because it's a lot of information. It is associated information with elaborate rehearsal. Okay, cool. I trust you. You're using some big money words. But I appreciate you sharing that. All right, so let's do this. I need to stop sharing for just a moment. I need to go to the share screen once again because I need to share the sound in order for me to there we go. There we go. Okay. So these guys are very clinical, but we still need to, it's still the industry. It's still information we need to be aware of. So I'm going to check the volume. Before it goes any further, National Association of Realtors Proposed Settlement addressing common questions, statements, and misrepresentations from the court case. Now, the judge has not ruled on this proposed settlement as of yet.
Hello, everyone. Obviously,
how's the volume? It sounds a little low. Let me see.
Since Ed and I posted our last video, we got an enormous amount of views on that video.
All right. Can you guys hear it? Because if you can hear it, give me a thumbs up in the chat-a-lac. Or maybe, I don't know if you can do thumbs up. Just put in a 1 or an I or an L in chat, and that way I'll know you can hear the video. Okay, good. I'm gonna boost the volume as high as I can because I'm gonna make, oh, it's all volume. We're at 11. I mean, if there was an 11. Okay, cool. Here we go. I'll put it back to the beginning, and then that way we can do this.
Hello, everyone. Obviously, since Ed and I posted our last video, we got an enormous amount of views on that video and a ton of comments, a ton of questions. And I think that as we look through social media, we look through some of the different channels that we have access to, Ed and I have both come away a little bit concerned with some of the misinformation that may be going on out there. And we just thought it might be a good idea for us to get in front of you again and give you an idea of what the settlement actually says instead of what people are saying it says. We are going to go through some of the key elements of that settlement and talk about, you know, some of the the different things that could be occurring over the next couple of months. One of the number one questions that we've gotten that I just want to say at the beginning, and I'll probably reiterate it when we go to the end, is that day to day, nothing changes for our brokers and our agents. Until the settlement, and recognize that this is a proposed settlement, the judge in the Burnett case has not even given it preliminary approval at this point. So a lot of discussion about things that may be fluid, may change. We would hope to have a better idea before the July timeframe that they've put into the agreement to have this occur. But just recognize that until then, there'll be no changes to the multiple listing service. There'll be no changes to the compensation field, and it should be business as usual for brokers and agents, with the exception of preparing for some things that you guys need to have some ideas of what's going on. So I would like to dive into what the settlement actually states. Ed and I are going to take some elements of the quick summary and go through what is actually in the settlement. The first one that I think that may have some changes for you now, because I do think you need to get prepared and be aware of buyer broker representation agreements. But part of the proposed settlement is that there's going to be an MLS rule that agents working with the buyer must enter into a written agreement before the buyer tours any home, and it must have these specific terms. There must be a specific fee to be paid to the buyer's agents for their services. That fee must be ascertainable with no games, no ifs, ands, or buts as to what that fee will be. And a buyer broker may not receive more compensation from any source that exceeds the amount or rate that is in the agreement with the buyer.
Yeah, thanks, Art. The next aspect of the settlement agreement that really applies to us here at the MLS also is that any existing MLS rule and any existing fields where we accommodate for this offer of compensation with regard to a blanket unilateral offer must be removed. So again, after there's finalization of these rules and some timeframes have been established, we will be removing some of those existing rules and those existing fields.
There's also going to be a new MLS rule that prohibits the listing broker and sellers from making, one, an offer of compensation on the MLS to buyer brokers. So you can't use the remarks field or some other element to offer compensation on the MLS, or disclosing on the MLS a listing broker compensation or total broker compensation. So the combined comp is not allowed. Ed, talk a little bit about what the MLS can require on this new rule in section 3.
Yeah, so what's absent from this requirement is the MLS can, just like we do today, ask the listing agent when he's reporting a closed sale, what was the actual amount of concessions that the seller provided to the buyer. And to the extent that those concessions may have included some kind of buyer broker fee, that could still be requested and identified within a closed MLS listing. In other words, that's factually what actually happened. I think the reason that that is allowed to remain is because it's going to impact value, right? This is important information for you to have as both the listing agents and representing buyers. So when you run a CMA, you know, hey, what property resulted in some type of seller concession versus which properties did not. And that may impact some of the decisions of your sellers and buyers and how they value properties. So I think this particular section, it's important to note what's not here and what we're still allowed to do, which is to ask at the closing, what was the actual amount of concession given from the seller to the buyer? And that will still be allowed.
Okay, and it also talks about some of the things that the rule shall not prevent. What are some of those things, Ed?
Yeah, some things that we're not allowed to kind of make a rule, rules that we can't prevent from happening are offers of compensation off of the MLS, right? So again, this is kind of consistent with the overall philosophy of MLS rules, right? We're here to regulate and to manage our broker cooperative within the multiple listing service. But you guys still have the freedom of contract outside the MLS. So any kind of deal that gets cut, not involving the MLS at any level, is still out there for the brokers to engage in kind of whatever deal making off MLS that happens. The other thing that's important to note here, and a really critical exception, is that we are not prevented in the MLS from having some kind of field that allows the seller to communicate a concession. Now, this is very different than a unilateral offer of compensation. What's allowed to happen is the communication of concessions that the seller says they're willing to do in the list price. As an example, at CRMLS, we noted in 2023 that almost 50% of our closed transactions had some level of concessions, meaning the seller paid for some level of the buyer fees. Now, if you guys remember 2023, we had high interest rates. So we saw a lot of loan buy downs, right? Where the sellers helped the buyers get into the property. We saw a lot of sellers paying for title and escrow fees on behalf of the buyer, again, to encourage a buyer to come buy their property versus a different property. So the concept that the seller can still create an incentive directly to the buyer is completely allowed and permitted within the MLS, because it's not a formal offer or a contractual offer of compensation to the broker.
So obviously in some of the comments and some of the things we've seen on social media, just the idea of creating this element outside of the MLS where there's this aggregated mechanism to provide offers of compensation. There's some issues that will be in the settlement agreement to stop some of that activity from happening, because we're going to agree to not to create, facilitate, or support any non-MLS mechanisms, including sending any listings to internet aggregator websites for listing broker or sellers to make offers of comps. But the MLS can provide data to a site unless the MLS knows that the data feeds are being used for the purpose of operating a platform for sharing comp, or the listing broker is displaying both data from the MLS and offers of comp only on that broker's specific listings. Unpack that one for me, Ed.
Yeah, this one's a little complicated in its wording, but here's the scenario that I think was anticipated, or the concern as the parties were settling. And that was, so we have this big rule that applies to all the MLSs across the country, that we can't facilitate or have a field that offers compensation from broker to broker, right? But what would prevent one of these big data aggregators or the large portals that everybody goes to from basically just offering an opportunity for listing brokers to go into their listings and drop in an offer of compensation anyway? And so in other words, you would have the same facility, the same issue out there, just not in the MLS, right? And that really wouldn't be fair. The concept here is we're limiting this opportunity on a grand scale. So this particular aspect of the settlement agreement is a rule that on us that says we're not allowed to even send the listing data to a company or to a firm that is using the data in a way to, in essence, mimic what is prohibited in the MLS, right? Now, that being said, if you're an individual listing broker and you get a data feed from CRMLS, of which there are 27,000 of you operating a website, nothing prevents you on your own listings only from having some kind of offer of compensation to whoever you want to help, bring a buyer. So here, I think this has got more to do, Art, with the kind of the freedom of contracting again, that some of these rules have to still have guardrails on them, that parties still have the freedom to enter contracts. But what you're not allowed to do on your website as a broker is to have offers of compensation for listings that are not yours. If you do that, by rule, we at CRMLS are going to be required to turn off your data feed, right? So it would only be an offer of comp on your very own listings.
Okay, very good. So those are the basic facts about what we've seen out of the proposed settlement. And I think it may be a little bit different than what you guys are hearing out there. Obviously, to transition, we're hearing a lot of common questions and misconceptions about that settlement that we just read off for you guys. One of the ones that first one we hear is, how could NAR do this to us? And obviously, not being on the front lines and not being the ones that have been dealing with the plaintiffs. There's just a wide variety of pressures and issues that NAR has been undergoing in all of these lawsuits. The Burnett Sitzer lawsuit and the loss in front of that jury trial obviously had a lot to do with that. But Ed, talk to me a little bit about a former litigator, what could have enticed NAR to do and to go this direction?
The first one is the facts and the law, right? Everyone gets kind of grandiose, and I think maybe we watch a little bit too much TV drama on what lawyers can do. And there's this like misconception that whoever has the best lawyer wins. That's not how our system of justice was designed. That's not how it operates in reality. Okay. You have to deal with the facts and the law as they exist. No matter what you want, the truth is still supposed to be what happens. And so the reality is the industry system that's been in place for 30 years, 40 years, went to trial and this side lost. That's the reality of it, right? A jury looked at the facts, it looked and applied the law and determined that there were problems with this offer of compensation in the way that buyers don't have an opportunity to negotiate their side of the transaction. And so that was the decision that was made. And so NAR is forced to deal with that reality that they tried the case and the concepts and the ideals lost. And so what do you do next? And so NAR shared with us a little bit about that in some of their frequently asked questions they published. And that was, come April, with these post-trial motions that were there, if NAR was not going to win those, realize, Art, what was going to happen next was, one, there was going to be a very large judgment put against NAR. There was probably going to be some kind of bond hearing that would have required NAR to post a bond in the hundreds of millions, if not even $1 billion, for which they may not have been able to handle, which means NAR would have had to file bankruptcy. Now, the moment NAR files bankruptcy, guys, realize NAR cannot participate in resolving any of these claims against anybody. They can't contribute any money, and they can't help resolve anything about the rule. The other danger, Art, that I think NAR was facing come April was a motion from the plaintiffs to the judge in the Sister Burnett case requesting that an injunction be placed against NAR to change the rule. So guys, realize in that environment, one single judge in the state of Missouri would have been then writing the rule that we were all going to have to follow. And it would not have included any of the nuances of the 5 points, Art, that we just articulated and went through. We talked a lot about, hey, here's some things we can do and some things we can't do. Right. And the reason that a negotiated rule set is better for the overall marketplace is it does keep alive a lot of the concepts of transparency. It helps agents with this mandatory buyer rep agreement because we know a lot of times that's not done. And so if you have some agents doing it and others not, how do buyer agents get paid? Right. There would have been a lot of problems if we had just a judge-made rule. So I think those are probably the two biggest aspects of, why did NAR, decide to settle? Look, they lost and they were really up against, being able to not help the industry at all if they had to file bankruptcy. And so I think they pulled what was the most logical position and strongest deal they could get cut.
People view this as a bad deal for real estate, but it could have been much worse, couldn't it have?
Oh, it could have been a disaster, right? Imagine, guys, a rule that says 30 days from now, every MLS just has to pull the compensation field out. And that's it, nothing else, right? Think about the bedlam that would ensue. Think about, again, here in California, where most people don't get buyer rep agreements signed. How do you get paid, right? And with no requirement, you'd have some agents doing rep agreements, others that wouldn't. So it might be hard to get one signed, which means the question of whether you're going to get paid at all. Does it move the offers of compensation kind of into the backdoor room, right? Where depending on how good of a friend you are with the listing agent dictates whether you get a cut of that action or whether you get nothing, right? These were all the way our world would have looked like if NAR didn't try to resolve this. And let's not lose sight of the fact that the release that NAR got was for all of the local associations. Obviously, us as MLSs are protected because, we're in a lawsuit right now. And so we end up with protection. And NAR's release includes every single Realtor member, right? There is a group of about 95 brokerage firms that are not covered by the release. They did cover 1.6 million individual agents in getting this deal done, right? So it's not like that is insignificant, right? That's a major protection for those of us that are realtors and day to day, practice real estate.
And obviously, if all of the cases had gone to its, final ending point, and we would have lost, it could have bankrupted most of the industry. So I think there's some important things to realize on that side there. We're hearing a lot of this is the end of real estate, end of the road for real estate as we know it. There's some truth in that, but recognize that there's some misleading articles out there as well. Real estate as we know it, which means an offer of compensation in the MLS, will be coming to an end. But recognize that compensation is not currently required in the multiple listing service. That 0 is a number that was allowed per NAR earlier last year. It is our belief, though, that real estate will thrive, and you guys are, very, very good at adjusting the way that you do business. Ed, talk to me a little bit about what you think, some of your experiences on the commercial side.
It's interesting when people say real estate is going to end as we know it. My personal career with real estate included quite a bit of commercial. So for me, I look at these changes and go, I'm just going to get paid like I do on a commercial deal. And by the way, when I close a commercial deal, the closing statement on a commercial deal, if I laid it next to one of the deals on my closings on a residential deal, look exactly the same. And what I mean by that is the seller paid me as the buyer representative my fee. The difference between the two is when I do a commercial deal, my offer includes the seller paying the buyer agent fee, my fee. And it becomes a point of negotiation between the buyer and the seller against the list price and other terms. And so there might be a little bit of back and forth on how much of my fee the seller's going to cover. But I can tell you guys, 95% of the time, the seller has paid 100% of my fee on the buyer side. That is the norm, even though there's absolutely no MLS, there's no offer of compensation, there's no unilateral contractual rights that I have as a buyer's agent when I bring a deal. And trust me, guys, today there will be thousands of closings that happen in the commercial world where there's no MLS, no offer compensation, and the buyer's agent just got paid by the seller. I think the real focus here is going to be changing some forms, making sure you're properly educated. Guys, go out and get some of your negotiating skills up to, a high level. I think the other thing we're going to see here, Art, when you talk about changes in real estate, I had one person ask me, well, so, hey, Ed, what's going to happen with buyer agent fees? What do you think that's going to look like? And I said, I don't know. You have to give me a lot more information. And what I'm going to need to know is how experienced is the buyer's agent? Realize one of the things that's going to happen now is me as a 30-year lawyer, 20-year realtor, I am going to be able to command a very different price for my services than somebody who's been a realtor for 20 days, right? And that's, guys, how it works in every other field. As a first-year associate lawyer, I did not make as much money per case I worked on as the named partner whose name was on the door, nor should I have, right? So there are some opportunities that are going to be in here, and that is going to also be a different. I think you're also going to see differences, whether you're in a buyer's market versus a seller's market. That may also have a little bit more influence on the level of commission and rate of commissions. That is going to be a little bit more tied to, a capitalistic market-based approach than it maybe had been in the past.
Yeah, the other thing you're hearing, Ed, is that buyer's agents are going to suffer the most. Actually, buyer's agents are going to have the opportunity to explain their unique value, their proposition, and to their buyers and they're going to be given an opportunity to place a value on the buyer agent services. And those buyers are going to be able to accept the obligation to pay for those services. A lot more transparent, a lot more of a clear, direction to the buyer as to, who's actually paying for those services. Talk a little bit about that, Ed.
Yeah, I think it's an important distinction. I think this is actually a great opportunity. We've all been taught in real estate, you become a buyer's agent to do the hard work, the go tour a bunch of properties, put in lots of different offers, just so that you can develop a relationship, so then you can become a listing agent, right? Where all you do is tap the sign in, enter into the MLS, and voila, I get 6, 7 offers above list price, right? That's everybody's goal. Realize, guys, now think about this hot sellers market we were just in. Imagine the very best buyer's agent who can demonstrate that they get their first offers accepted on a very high level. Why can't that person charge a premium, right? They're not stuck with whatever the listing agent and the seller thinks that buyer's agent should get. They can command a level and a brokerage fee that stacks up against their skills and their expertise. And so can you actually receive a premium as a buyer's agent? I think actually, Art, in a hot seller's market, one of the things we might see in the future is a lowering of the list side, right? Because now as a seller talks to a listing agent, the communication, the conversation is about the services the listing agent is going to provide, and the hours and energy going to be spent by the listing agent talking to the seller. It's not going to be confused or bound up in how much of this do we have to give to the buyer's agent, right? And so in a hot seller's market where it's not as challenging to sell a property, is there some downward pressure on that side? I think you're going to see some of those kind of things reshift a little bit. So I do not agree with these analysts, from Wall Street who've never walked through the house with a buyer before, who say, oh, the buyer's agency will just go away and no one will pay for those services. Trust me, buyers want representation. They want great representation, and they will pay for it.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that, statistically, everybody's looked at the, insertion of the internet and, buyers and sellers being, more empowered to do a lot of this work themselves. But statistically, what we've seen is a significant rise in the amount of people that are using the services of both buyers and seller agents. So, that may be counterintuitive, but I think people recognize that it's a very complex transaction, and one that they need to be represented through. Nobody will go into court and have an expectation that the lawyer that's representing the plaintiff is also going to represent them on the defense side. So, recognize that I think there's some very, clear understandings from the consumer standpoint as well. We're also getting, if the proposed settlement is approved, when will the commission field be removed? Obviously, there's a lot of moving parts. We mentioned that in the last video. There are rule changes. There are potential lending law changes that have to be made. There are forms that have to be changed, forms that have to be created. But recognize that we're going to do everything we possibly can to communicate with you guys as much as possible. But for now, it's business as usual. There's not going to be any changes in the MLS, and no forms changes until the settlement is final. And as NAR has noted to everyone, that could take months. And if the changes actually occur in July, I'd be surprised. I don't quote me on saying that they won't happen in July, but there's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of things that have to be addressed before these changes can go into effect in the multiple listing service. So in closing, I just wanted to kind of reiterate to you guys that CRMLS has not been planning for this, but has been aware of the potential of these changes for a long time, for at least 3 years. I'm a big believer that you've got to do contingency planning, and those contingency plans have to go from worst case scenario to best case scenario. And we're pretty close to where we thought things were going to be, and we're prepared to act as far as what the changes that are finally approved in the settlement. I just would recommend that everybody, calm the temperature down a little bit. Let's look at how we can embrace the opportunities ahead. We're going to continue to help you and enrich your understanding of all the changes and what it means to you on a day-to-day basis. And I would highly recommend that you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel and be notified of new updates from CRMLS, because we're going to be pumping things out. And we understand that there's going to be a lot of need for education and a lot of times to have an understanding of what all these changes will mean to your day-to-day business. And we're going to do everything we possibly can to not just bring CRMLS's voice to the table, but all of those people that could help you understand what all of these changes that will work their way through all of the escrow channels and the lending channels will mean to you guys. So thank you guys. Thank you, Ed, for taking the time to try to hopefully make this a little bit clearer for everybody. Obviously, we're making it as clear as we're able to at this point. And I just really recommend that you guys stay tuned and pay attention to all of those different communications that are coming out from CRMLS, from NAR, and from the California Association of Realtors. Thank you, and we look
Of course, I'm talking, and I do apologize because I was like, why is no one responding? What are you guys have any takeaways before I say anything? How is this making you feel as people that are going into the industry, like green per se is probably a good way of putting it, but without the, that attorney, that realtor turned attorney / CRMLS dude is like, well, I can charge because I've been in the industry. How does that make you guys feel as presently very new to the industry agents? Yeah, of course. Yeah, green. That's a good way of looking at it. I appreciate you guys saying that. I think it makes sense. You're on a tighter budget when you first start as an agent. Okay. So then I'm going to ask you guys some questions. How about this? What if brokerages were set up in such a way, and some are, that they have a mentorship program where you come in and you're mentored by someone who has 10 years experience or 8 years experience or 5 years or 2 years, and the two of you guys team up together because these are your clients, because you brought the clients in the door, and that person says, hey, because of my experience and because of our teamwork makes the dream work, and they present the commission split being at a level because of the amount of work you're doing. Does it make you feel a little bit more inspired, like, oh, okay, then I can ask for what other people are asking for? Would that help you, or would that help you feel more comfortable? You guys might not even know about these court cases that are going on. Yeah, so I want to encourage you. I've only been around for 23 years in the industry, and prior to that, years without a license because of family having having the opportunity to be in a brokerage and just be like the front office person or the whomever. So I want us to talk about the elephant in the room, which is the potential for you guys to get less commission than you would have previously. It is I love that. Aiko put in the chat, it's important to communicate with your boss about commission. Now, part of the reason that I will go directly to the source, which is CRMLS, or I'll go to the National Association of Realtors when this stuff comes up, is the moment you watch one of these videos, every harebrained realtor within 1,000 million sorry, my maths are not working on this Wednesday evening, within 1 million miles has input about what's happening because it's national concern. But the reality of the situation is they don't know what you're going through. They don't know what you're striving to do. And all they're doing is kind of like raining on your parade with regards to being a new agent in the industry. And you might find in the classes with me that one of the things that I say, and if I am not saying it enough, I promise I can dial it up. one of the things I say in the class is you must disclose everything. You must communicate to your clients. The consumer is the layman. You are the specialist. That's why in class a lot of times I'll say, or in any of these videos I'll say, we're bringing the future into the present, and I need you to think like a realtor. I need you to be the realtor right now. I need you to be that real estate specialist. I need you to be that licensed agent, so that the vocabulary, the terminology, the contracts, communicating or thinking about how you're going to communicate with your clients is in real time. And if this is what I've been saying with you since the beginning, take care of your consumer, take care of the consumer, which is the buyer or the seller. Take care of them, because they're not the ones that were given a license to sell real estate in the state of California. You were. Take care of them because you took those prerequisite courses. You're paying for a realtors association. You're paying for, or your broker is paying for marketing. You're rubbing elbows at the Rotary Club. You're rubbing elbows and paying for your local association dues. You're trying to grow your community. You're obviously wanting to put food on your table, whether you've got fur babies like I do, or whether you have real babies, or you've got babies in college, or a baby's getting married. Because my mom was so sweet. My grandfather always called her his baby, and my mom's like, hey Dad, I've got 3 kids. Like, he's like, you're always going to be the baby. But the reality of the situation is, where is our mindset? Are we looking at this as a failure? Are we looking at this as a position that puts us in a position of, oh, well, now I can only charge what they'll let me charge? Technically, by law, it has always been that way. But because of the lawsuit in Missouri, and now the lawsuits coming through in California, based on the fact that that lawsuit in Missouri was against the National Association of Realtors and Keller Williams and some other big hitting franchises, it put everybody in the spotlight. And we talk about in my class how your client has a 4 years buyer's remorse, right? Or what's called a statute of limitations per, the state. It's contractual law. They have a 4-year statute of limitations. I call it buyer's remorse because if you think about your client and the families you're helping, and you realize they have the first 4 years they're living their best life in that home, or they're not living their best life in that home, that they can come back and go, yeah, I don't know that you followed the law on this one, and I want my file audited with the Department of Real Estate. Changes the dynamic on how you do real estate, right? So one of the reasons I do that with you as students right out the gate is you're going to immediately figure out if your broker or the brokers that you're interviewing, if they see things that same way. Are they protecting the consumer, or are they asking for you to push and close a deal because they're paying off a Maserati, or they've got to go take their side hustle to Vegas and take her to the local Louis Vuitton so you can get another purse to keep her quiet? Like, and what I mean by that is, I don't mean to sound rude, but there are people in this industry where they've overspent it on their credit cards. They're trying to live. My mom, what they used to say, they're trying to live up to the Joneses. I might be saying it wrong. You guys can correct me in the chat. If they're putting themselves in a position where they want to appear as though they are successful, but because of the choices because of the debt they put themselves into to look successful, they are now in a position where they need to compromise in some respects on how they handle their clients because they're paying off the previous costs of success, keeping up with the Joneses. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm gonna still work on it. But look, I like nice things too. And you're like, Kathy, are you sure? Or Combeses? Oh, I believe that. I appreciate that. I like nice things just like the rest of you. By the end of the day, though, my hair is still going to be up in a bun. I'm still going to be wearing puffy. I'm still going to be wearing a silly T-shirt or something. I'm comfortable in my skin. I'm comfortable with who I am. Yeah, I appreciate the chat. You just keep dropping them in. I thank you. I want you to understand that I want you to be comfortable in your skin. I want you to be comfortable in your market. If the market you're initially working with will be your friends and family, then you need to be practicing with your friends and family and go, hey, there's been some new lawsuits. There's some changes on how disclosures are being disclosed. It's always kind of been standard operating practice between 2 to 3% would be the commission on the sale for each agent, for each brokerage. And so that has been standard practice, but because of the amount of work that goes into it, but because of some behaviors that have happened in the past, we have to disclose this information now, and we need to express to you how this works. And it shouldn't be fear-based. It shouldn't be like, oh, if we don't offer it, nobody's going to want to show the property. Okay. But if everybody's required to follow this protocol, everyone is going to be aware of the protocol. Everyone's going to be aware of the situation. And one of the things he said that's so key, one of the gentlemen said from the CRMLS that was so key, was he said, in commercial real estate, I have been doing this the entire time. And we had Laura with Eve Capital come into my class at UCLA a few weeks ago. She is an amazing person. She owns Eve Capital. It's evecap.com. This video is not being sponsored by her, but I wanted to encourage you guys that there are companies out there that will be honest about how commissions work and how they negotiate the commission with their client. And so if your client's the buyer and you let the buyer know, hey, I'm great at this job. And if they go, oh, well, you've only been in the industry for like 2 weeks. I have students that that took the state exam within the last 5 months that have multi-million-dollar listings because they just happen to live in a neighborhood where there's multi-million-dollar listings, and their friends and family found out that they were doing real estate, and they're just these wonderful, social, beautiful people, and they're closing deals. So to say if you're green that you can't get the commission, I'm going to tell you right now you can, because quality of service is key. That's why I push so hard in these classes. Disclose, communicate, protect the consumer. You're the specialist. You're the one that's been licensed by the state of California. You're the one that has errors and emissions insurance. You're the one that chose the broker, even though we think the broker thinks that they chose you. These are the keys to success, is knowing that you are the leader, that you are the one directing your ship. If we go with the salation, if it bleeds, it leads. I'm telling you right now, I'm about to knock someone out, not anybody in my classes or the replay crew. But if I see another video on someone saying it's the end of real estate, it's this, it's that, they said that during the crash of 2007, 2008. Go Google what Robert Kawasaki did back in 2007, 2008 when the market crashed. He borrowed out $300 million and got apartment complexes back up on their feet and was able to make millions of dollars. When somebody else sees, yeah, thank Jimmy, cooking with gas, dude. He said Chicken Little. We can focus. Yeah, he saw the sky fall or something fell, right? It could have just been a leaf or an apple, but anyway, absolutely. You're right on target. I appreciate you. I appreciate each and every one of you here and those of you in the replay crew as well. But I want to encourage you. I know it's 7:30 and I try to only keep you guys for an hour, but I want to strike while the iron's hot and let you guys know as students, you're not going into a bad field. Basically what's happening right now is they're weeding out the bad agents. All the agents that are complaining right now, we're not going to be able to do anything and we're going to fail. Well, you know what? That makes more room for those that know how to protect the consumer. Thanks for playing. Drop your membership over at the California Department of Real Estate. You know what I'm saying? So please, Jimmy, of course. Oh my gosh, I'm totally, hey, look, I survived the crash of 2007, 2008. You guys are going to survive, and all this is, if we boil this down to reality and take all of the horse malarkey out of it, we take the reality show out of it, we take the YouTubes and the TikToks and the Instas and all the things out of it, and we boil it down to what this really is. It is a protection to the consumer so that the consumer is aware of exactly why they're paying what they're paying. And people do not learn from history. They'll go back to just allowing the charge to be anywhere from 2 to 3% or even higher, because agents are going to come in and say, I work for every penny of this. I'm traveling, I'm doing the flyers, I'm knocking on doors, And it puts the agents that know how to market themselves and show that the client should trust them and build rapport. All it's doing is weeding out those that are not willing to put the consumer first. And those that are not willing to put the consumer first are the reason we have all these extra effing disclosures required, because they've screwed it up for the rest of us, and that's gone to court. And then, there's a new state regulation. Now there's a new federal regulation. And California is always right at the top on what has to be taken care of. I think the advertising is getting interesting with with the agents, and I see Instagram videos of listings now. Interesting. Well, and the thing is, this is the key to success. Find a broker that can express to you any of this newer stuff in a way that makes sense and allows you to feel like you can take that next step and be successful. Okay? All this is putting the consumer in a position of clarity. They knew they were paying the commissions the way they were paying the commissions. Now they're being presented with, we're going to market this the heck out of your house. We're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and this is what we've always done. And then we're going to do these things, and we're going to contact so and so, and we're going to do. And you're going to find that they're like, wow, a lot of people that you go to talk to for listings are then going to go, wow, I had no idea that you guys did all that stuff. Now I know why you get paid the big bucks. And you're like, we've always done it, but now you're putting it on the table as a reminder, as an encourager on why the commissions are where they are. So I just want to encourage you guys, this should not cause you to run away from the job or this industry in any way, shape, or form. If anything, it should cause you to run forward, because we have over 400,000 agents in the industry. About half of those actually do anything, and about 20,000 of those actually really, really do something. And because you can kind of spit, and just like when my mom was growing up, you could kind of spit and there was a church on every corner. In our day, you can kind of spit and hit a realtor. You know what I mean? There's a bunch of people out there, but that doesn't mean a bunch of them are successful. And I want to give you every tool to success, and I want you to breed success and breathe success and help the community that you're wanting to help sell and buy in. If you do not live in the community where you want to sell properties in, I want to encourage you to get to the point where you're living there and buying in and moving into that neighborhood. Because if that's where you want, if that community is the community that you want to grow, and for them to know your name, whether you're with Keller Williams, Coldwell Banker, any of those guys, they're going to know your exact name. And I'm not going to call any names out in this, but you know what I'm saying? I want you guys to have people know you by name. How are they going to know you by name? Because 10% of your commissions go to help the local Little League, or you donate X, Y, and Z to the local senior center, or all of these things. Why do you do those things? Because you're growing your real estate business base, and you're wanting people to trust you. How do people, and I'm not joking, how do people trust other people? Oh, they donated money to so-and-so? Oh, aren't they just the sweetest people? Yeah, we should probably work with them. And you're like, that's all. And sometimes it only takes something. And I'm not saying, like, you can Sandra Bullock it up all you want to, or Keanu Reeves it up, where people don't know what they do until like years later. And they're like, she gave $1 million to what? She did, she donated blah, blah, blah. Or in the same thing with him. You can do it that way too. The thing is, there's something about sewing back into the community that you are living in, or the community that you're wanting your family to grow in, that brings a return. It's an exponential return. You can call it karma. You can call it the grace of God. You can call it none of those things. You can call it, I don't know what the other stuff is. You can call it coincidence. Call it whatever you want to call it. But the reality of the situation is, if we will give back to the community where we live, the community will come to us and say, explain this. How does this work? How does this not work? And you might be a part of a nationality, or have heritage where the people in your that are of the same, like, from the same base and same understanding, your community or the community that live around. I have to pay a realtor because I do not want to do any of that work. I'd rather pay you to just get it done. There's going to be a percentage of clientele like that. There's going to be the percentage that are fighting you for the commission. And that's okay too, because they're all growing opportunities. There are clients out there that need you because you're going to protect them. There are consumers out there that need you because you're helping them find their forever home. This is just part of the disclosure process to actually protect them. And when we look at it from the perspective of protecting our clients, it's easier. I mean, maybe it's not. You guys tell me in chat. Is that easier, or is that like, oh God, this is going to be worse? If we're just sharing and from a trusting perspective, but we've got to get them to trust us. Some of you have only been my students for less than a week, and yet I'm getting all kinds of emails. Why do you trust me? You're like, oh, well, UCLA trusts you. Yeah, why do they trust me? Why does LACCD trust me? Why does Glendale? Why does Calabria? Yeah, you know what I mean? Oh, that's the way you sold. Thank you so much, Jimmy. And put in chat, that's the way I sold the RVs in the industry. There is a method to the process. And all we've got to do is find what's right for our niche market in the community where we live. Let's see, Eiko put, I think it's good. It builds better relationships in your community and you have a better business reputation. Absolutely. 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 And I'm pronouncing it wrong. Is it Daranyas? Daranjas? I apologize if I didn't try earlier because I actually had to get closer to my screen to read it because I still need to get glasses, you guys. I'm like 3 years into saying I'm going to get glasses this year. I'm turning 50. We're not getting glasses this year. I'm turning 50 this year. I'm 50 years old. Okay, so that being said, I'm not here to keep you any longer than you'd like to stay. After, do you guys have any questions with regards to what we saw? Does there need to be additional clarity on what they're basically saying? If you went and saw Dune 2, the thumper is in the sand, the worm is coming, but it's not here. You know what I mean? Like but you can either ride the worm or you can get swallowed. What side do you want to get on it? The disclosures are coming. You can either be aware of what the type of disclosures are or how the disclosures will be managed, or you can be eaten up, probably with acid reflux, on not knowing. And the way you're going to know is you're going to find a broker that knows how to train you, and all the other agents, that's the thing, all the other agents that have been in the industry for 20 plus years. We've always done it this way, Kathy. Yeah, well, guess what? It ain't the law. The law states we must. The regulatory system is set like this. You know what I mean? No, oh, Eiko. So the commissions that they're talking about in these videos are actually associated with, you can always negotiate the commissions with the broker. Yes. But the court cases that you were they're oh, sorry, I keep stepping on I got a little tiny puppy. I keep running my foot over the top of her because I'm like, did I move the rugs? And I'm like, oh, that's my dog. Hold on, sorry. The commission, let me get back to it. The commissions that we're talking about in these videos are associated with the commission split or the commission negotiation you are going to have with your sellers that are asking you to list the property, or with your buyers that are asking you to help them find a property. And so you're going to be going through disclosures. They're going to be signing documents with you that shows that they're going to be working with you, and what you, based on the amount of work that you're going to do in your experience and the company and the team that you work with, what you would like to charge. And then in that, when you put the offer in, so let me put it this way. Let's say that Jimmy has a property and his agent is Duranjas. Duranjas? I am so sorry. Dara. We'll just do that. How does that sound?
Duranjas works.
Duranjas works? Okay, sorry. Okay, thank you. So let's say Duranges is the agent for Jimmy. Jimmy is the seller of the home. Duranges is listing the property. And per the disclosures, Jimmy's like, I don't want to pay the buyers. I don't want to have anything on the listing that shows that a buyer's agent is going to get commission. As the owner of the property, I want to sell and list the property, and I don't want to put a commission on there. So let's say, as an example, that ACO wants to buy the property and I am her agent, and she's like, I really want to pay. And let's say Jimmy has it listed for 1.5 and ACO's like, all day, every day, I'll do one. She's like, girl, I will pay 1.7 if I have to. That is a phenomenal house. That is underpriced. And so at that point, I might say to her, well, looking at the listing, there is no commission for me as your agent, as a buyer's agent on that listing. So we are going to put in an offer subject to, let's say you'll buy the property for 1.7, but that I would like to, based on the conversation we previously had, I charge 2.5% to do what I do, because I'm the cat's meow. And so we put the offer in, and that's the type of commission that they're talking about. They're talking about the commission between the seller and the listing agent, and whether or not they want, the seller of the home is interested in paying the buyer's agent for bringing the client. And let's say one step further, Jimmy's like, well, I'll pay somebody that wants to bring in a client 1%, but I don't want to put more than that on there. If they want more than that and they give us a pretty good offer, I might be able to calculate out the numbers and see that it's worth it to me. And Duranges is like, okay, you know what? You're the seller of the home. I'm not going to fight this. This is, and not going to go through all of that, but that's where the brain is going. It's like, okay, if that's what you want to do, then we put in the offer. You guys list a property for 1.5. We put in the offer for 1.7 with an understanding that the commission is X, Y, and Z that we would like. And then Jimmy crunches the numbers, gives a thumbs up to his agent Duranges, and now we've sold the home. But Jimmy communicated with his agent the commission. ACO communicated with her agent the commission that she was willing to pay to get the help to find the house. And then the bilateral contract did not happen until both Jimmy and ACO agreed upon in the purchase agreement and joint escrow instructions what he was willing to pay, or excuse me, what he was willing to accept for payment on the home, and per the instructions. So what is this making us do as agents? Read the contract. And you're like, Kathy, you told us we are supposed to read the contract. I know what I said. I know what I said, but people don't. There's a lot of agents out there that are not doing their job. You know what I mean? Will the commission be noted on the residential purchase agreement and joint escrow instructions, correct? Or is it stated elsewhere? They will have, based on what they were sharing, is that there will be specific disclosures noting the information. Because the purchase agreement and joint escrow instructions does have a notation about commissions, and I don't know it off the top of my head, just like no, hold on a second. We'll have to deep dive that. Let me write that down. I want us to be able to go and look at that, and we can't do that tonight because I've already kept you for a minute. But what we will do is we'll PowerPoint it. We'll pull the disclosures up, the most recent version we can, which I got the most recent because I'm a realtor. I just like to sing it. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. But we'll pull them up and we'll do arrows to where this information is. And then I'm going to look also, I'll be watching the CRMLS to see if they have any sample, like any, okay, the most recent yada yada is coming in and this is what it looks like. And I'll reach out to the NAR and CAR, National Association of Realtors, California Association of Realtors, and my local association, and see if they have any documents that are coming up that they're going to, that they're like testing, or if they have any samples or anything, so that we can look at those and see the difference between the two. Because I promise you, not that my hands look exactly the same, but the difference between the old disclosure and the new disclosure when it comes to the listing agreement, it's just going to be a little something, something. And the same thing goes for the buyer's representation agreement. And that's the biggest kick. Has anyone ever bought a house in my group of my best students that are here tonight? Have any of you guys ever bought a house? Because looked for a property. Okay, did you sign a buyer's authorization agreement to work exclusively with one buyer's agent? Sorry, I mean, yeah, most people haven't. So this is really kind of forcing the hand of the potential homeowner that's looking to purchase a home in signing on with one real estate agent and that real estate agent negotiating their commission. So that was really kind of the way they were kind of twisting, not twisting in a negative way, but like re-straightening out how this is going to work. So there's a disclosure regarding having buyer representation. Actually, my weekend warriors hitting the ground running on Saturday. I don't think we do disclosures on Saturday. I'm reviewing our classes right now, and I'll do a little bit tomorrow, and then I do a lot in like at 6 that morning to just kind of refresh what we're going to be going into. But for my weekend warriors, we're actually going to be going through the disclosures. They're vintage though. But we do look at an example of a buyer's agency disclosure, a buyer's exclusive authorization. And we'll talk through that, and we can add that to the list of our goodness that we're going to be hitting the ground running on Wednesday next week. Okay, and that'll benefit, because I can go off the top of my head, but at 7:40, I've got to be honest with you, the top of my head is not doing well. I'm tired like the rest of you. That's why I try to keep this at an hour at least. I mean, at the most. But you're helping me resource the needs that you have, and I want to thank you for that, because that's awesome. Buyer's representation agreement is going to identify the buyer's representation commission, what they will be negotiating, just like the listing agreement between the seller and the agent is there. But the difference is what somebody is willing to pay a listing agent isn't public record. You don't see it. You only see. So like as an example, let me just give you one example, because I keep telling you guys I'm going to kick you out of my class, and then I'm just hanging out with you. If we go to let's go to Redfin, and we'll go to Laguna. I'm not spelling it right. Is it NI? Yeah, there it is. Kathy and my terrible spelling. So up to this point, and I know that we're not in the CRMLS. There are certain things we don't have to jump in, and that's one of them. Okay, but this is a listing for right under $1 million, right? Welcome home. We will. This will carry yada yada yada. 2-car garage, has AC. That means air conditioner. It's a $91 a month homeowners association. The property was built back in 1971. She's a Butte, Clark. SFR, single family residence. The lot size is 4,300. Right here. Buyer's agent fee 2%. This will no longer, based on after watching it a few times, what they're basically saying is you as the proverbial you that is bringing in the procuring cause, which is the buyer, will be coming in with, if it's in there, then that means the seller was like, we're totally down for 2%. But if it's not in there, you as the buyer's representative is going to have to present that you're the buyer's representation, excuse me. And in that also what you would like your commission to be. And the seller can come back and say, okay, well, you're going to have to get that from your client because we're not going to do that, or something along those lines. But most of the time, like he was saying, 90 to 95%, 99 or whatever the numbers were, the higher 90s, people are still just doing it the way we've always done it. The difference is it's now being disclosed in a manner where it can be very vividly seen. And that way the consumer is well aware of how that works. But you might see in the future. Now this is Redfin. Or if you look on Trulia or Zillow or I'm trying to think of another one. Sorry, I've got a little bit of the asthma. In the future, you might see that this is a 0. That just means that you as the agent have to negotiate, or you might see this as 1 or 0.5%, and then you've got to negotiate up to what you would like to be given, and then the seller might come back and say, we're not willing to pay the commission. You're going to have to talk to your client about paying the commission. But that's the kit and caboodle of it all. Now you're like, well, what if they don't want to pay us? They'll pay. Everybody pays because it's about us protecting them. But they've been burned. A lot of people have been burned by some really terrible realtors out there. And because they've been burned by some really terrible realtors, they're going to kind of take it out on us, some of them. And at that point, you can say, look, I'm worth every penny of this amount of money, and I'm not here to put stress or pressure on you. When you're ready, I would love to work with you, but if you, feel in any way, shape, or form, you can sit down with my broker, and you'll be put through a different version of training with your broker, where your broker says, hey, we are a no stress, no pressure real estate office, and we're not going to force people or coerce people or be a menace to people. And you could say in the past, realtors have been, and that's why the consumer's now saying, yeah, all my friends have been taken advantage by agents that never even took care of them, and blah, blah, very rarely do we ever hear that someone had a happy relationship with their agent. We only hear, if it bleeds, it leads, right? We only hear the negatives and the terrible things that happen. And so I want you guys to turn that on its ear and be the powerhouse agents I know you guys can be. But I also want us to realize we have Mount Vesuvius in front of us, if you will, or at least that's what it feels like. But it's not impossible. We just have to take one step at a time and methodically walk through the process with each client. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to be with saying, we must disclose commission. We must disclose these things. I need you to be protected as the consumer. And it'll actually get easier. That's part of the reason we're talking about it now. If I talk to you about it 2 minutes before you're walking in to talk to the client, that's when the acid reflux happens. That's when the heart palpitations happen. But we're talking about this even before some of you have taken the salesperson exam or the broker's exam, because I teach some prerequisite courses for salespeople as well as brokers. So we're just discussing this to try to walk through the best way to handle it. And when we get to that period in our life that it has to be handled, we'll be prepared. We can't put our head in the sand. We've got to be prepared to protect the consumer. And how do we do that? We polish the product that we have, which is us. We're the face of the company always. So anyway, I could keep talking, and it looks like I have been. So it is 7:54. I want to wish you all well. I want you to be blessed and blessed and concerned, blessed and encouraged. I am an email away. I am a text message away. You can reach out to me by text. You can reach out to me by email. If there are additional questions or concerns that come up, I am here for you. I'm here for your success. I'm here to help you master the next level of success in this industry. And I'm also not here to be shoveling the horse manure. We're here to clean we're shoveling it, but we're here to clean the stall. We're not here to make the stall worse, if you will. All right? Of course, Jimmy, thank you. I know, you guys. I really am getting rest. There's a lot going on, but it's good stuff. It's good stuff, okay? All right. All right. Be blessed, be encouraged, text message away, email away, social media away, a weem away. I'm going to start singing. All right. For those of you that are my weekend warriors, yes, see you Saturday. For those of you that are my independent students that are doing the independent student stuff, I'm still an email away and a text message away with regards to you too. Did you want to say goodbye? Did you want to tell them good night? Did you want to, okay, hold on, 1, 2, 3. Oh, my 11-pounder. Here she is. Say hello. Oh, say goodbye. Oh, okay, your sister wants to say goodbye too. Hold on. Come here, little miss. 1, 2, 3. Both of them are a little bit more Jim Henson than anything else, huh? Hers a Jim Henson. Hers not a Build-A-Bear puppy anymore. Oh, she went to the vet yesterday, so she's not feeling the fabuloso of it all. This one's name is Joy, and that one, and our wonderful older sister's name is Love, because we have love and joy in the house. We're obviously people that believe in talking and manifestation and some of that stuff. But I did have silly names for them, but I'll call them Bubba and Little Miss, or I'll call them Under My Feet. And me too. Me too. Why? Because she's very much so like the. So I want whatever she's getting. But yeah. And if you hear birds in the background, it's because the television is my last window. Oh, thank you. In the house, and I'll have birds or squirrels running through the TV window throughout class or whatever. And the reason for that is just to kind of keep that Zen feel. All right. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What do we have on our faces, huh? So, anyway, I obviously have something that she's enjoying. Well, maybe I just didn't clean up from dinner. What about that? All right. I'll see you guys very soon. Be blessed and encouraged, okay? All right. What do we say, Lovey? What do we say, Joy? Well, this is Joy. What do we say, Lovey Bug? All right. I'll see you guys soon.